What I could see in the game was the terrible officiating. It was terrible. In the second half, it was horrible. And even though, and everybody keeps talking about this Bradberry call, all right? And Bradberry even said that it was a penalty. He did. He said it was a penalty, but he thinks it shouldn't have been called in the Super Bowl. In an important game where a team has a chance to have at least a minute 30 or minute 40 seconds to come back in the game. And by the way, Kansas City McKinnon could have ran it in. He didn't. But that was after the penalty.
Right.
If the penalty actually was waived and it never happened, he would have ran it in. They would have kicked the field goal. And it would have gave the Philadelphia Eagles at least a minute and 35 seconds to take the ball down the field. But because of the penalty and because the Eagles used a lot of timeouts early in the second half, I think they only had one left.
They had one left, and that was because Nick Sirianni, I think, took one midway through the third quarter.
Because of that, that gave Kansas City 4 downs. There was no way they were going to be able to get the ball back because Kansas City was going to obviously run the clock out and kick the field goal and win the game. That was very, very costly for a Super Bowl game, which could have been epic. This could have been a great, epic football game. A minute and 35 seconds. Jalen Hurts, when everybody was taking shots all season long, he's not good enough. He's not an elite quarterback. The Eagles aren't going to re-sign him. The Eagles are going to draft a top-end young quarterback in this coming draft. Maybe a Bryce Young or a C.J. Stroud or whoever.
2 years ago, the Eagles were thinking of trading for Deshaun Watson.
Jalen Hurts had a great season. He was 16-1 before they played the Super Bowl game. The Eagles probably lose one game all season if Jalen Hurts plays in every single one of these games. And in the Super Bowl, when you're the better team, flat out better in every kind of way. And in this game, for some reason, the Eagles defense didn't show up in the second half. They didn't even show up in the second quarter in the last 3 minutes of the quarter. They gave Patrick Mahomes a chance to bring the ball down the field. And by the way, Patrick Mahomes touched the ball for only 2 minutes and 30 seconds in the second quarter. You did everything right in the first half as an offense and even as a defense. And then you go into the third and fourth quarter, and yes, I blame, maybe if you want to blame the field, fine. That's a partial blame. I will say the officiating definitely affected the end outcome of the game. Absolutely. But the defensive play calling was horrible. It was horrible. And for anybody to think that Gannon is going to change Kyler Murray needs to change himself before any coach can coach him and change him.
John also says, heck with it, play with on the baseball field. I mean, the old Raiders Stadium, so no one can complain about slippery turf. Well, yeah, there's a lot of people that have complained about that, though, too, John. He also says, okay, but what about the touchdown that got called back where the Eagles player clearly caught it and made forward movement and got hit and lost the ball? Yeah, there was a lot of ones that were controversial like that, too. It's weird. I actually thought they should have kept the Devontae Smith catch that got overturned, but they should have overturned the Dallas Goedert one that got kept, too. So there were a lot of very questionable ones.
And Kenny says, yet the Eagles could not beat the guy who has a busted ankle. Did he really have a busted ankle? I mean, I'm sorry. He was limping off the field in the second quarter, and everybody says he got cortisone shots, and he probably took pain pills, before he went on the field. He did the same thing against the Bengals. The same thing happened against the Bengals. He got the same cortisone shots, which he got pulled out in the second quarter because he couldn't even stand up. He had the same cortisone shots, had the same pain pills, and he couldn't throw on that back leg.
And the difference was in the third quarter, he still was able to be as aggressive as he could have been.
He wasn't limping in the third quarter. He wasn't limping in the fourth quarter. He was running down the field. He ran 29 yards in the fourth quarter, probably the biggest play of the game. And you're saying they couldn't beat a guy with a busted ankle? How do you know he had a busted ankle?
Yeah, John also says if he had a busted ankle, how did he run for 15 yards in the last 3 minutes?
How do you know he had a busted ankle? He was not hurt. Or the NFL was trying to hide something.